This video describes how the events of the heart's conducting system help to coordinate the cardiac cycle. In a single heartbeat, the chambers contract in sequence. First, the right and left atria contract together. Then, the right and left ventricles contract together. There are two cell types that are involved in this heartbeat. The cells of the conducting system control and coordinate the heartbeat, and the contractile cells are the cardiac muscle cells that produce the powerful contractions to propel or move the blood. Electrocardiography, often referred to as ECG or EKG, detects the electrical events of the conducting system at the body's surface. It is a non-invasive technique that detects the electrical events of millions of conducting cells of the heart from the surface of the body. The heart's EKG is significant because the electrical event of the conducting system causes the contraction of the chambers. Specifically, atrial depolarization, which means electrical excitation of the atria, causes atrial contraction. Likewise, ventricular depolarization causes ventricular contraction. So we say that the electrical event precedes the contraction event, meaning that the electrical event occurs first and the contraction event occurs second. The electrical event causes the contraction event. This figure shows a typical EKG. First, look at the upper left-hand corner. This shows how the electrical activity spreads through the heart. It begins at the SA node, located in the roof of the right atrium. The SA node contains a collection of conducting cells that starts the heartbeat and sets the pace for the whole heart. Thus, it is often called the pacemaker. From the SA node, the electricity spreads through the atria, and the atria depolarize. They become electrically excited. Thus, the first wave here in an EKG, which is called the P wave, indicates atrial depolarization. Next, the electricity arrives at the AV node, located between the atria and ventricles. At the AV node, the electricity is delayed briefly to give the atria time to finish contracting, and it then passes through the larger ventricles. The large QRS complex indicates ventricular depolarization. Finally, the last wave, the T wave, results from the electrical activity during the repolarization of the ventricles, meaning the ventricles go back to rest. Why don't we see evidence of atrial repolarization in the EKG? It turns out that the atria repolarize at the very same time that the ventricles depolarize. So right here. So the atrial repolarization is typically hidden by the large QRS complex associated with ventricular depolarization, which is being recorded at the same time. Recall that the events that we just discussed, the events of the conducting system, cause the contraction events of the heart. And we have some new vocabulary here. Systole means contraction. That's when the chamber contracts and pushes blood out, while diastole means relaxation. The chamber relaxes and fills with blood. Thus, in a single heartbeat, the phases of the cardiac cycle are as follows. Number 1, atrial depolarization causes atrial systole. This is when the atria contract, pushing the blood from the atria to the ventricles. Numbers 2 and 3 overlap in time. Atrial repolarization causes atrial diastole. The atria relax at the same time as ventricle depolarization causes ventricle systole. The ventricles contract. This pushes blood up and out of the left and right ventricle at the same time into the systemic and pulmonary circuits. Finally, Ventricular repolarization causes ventricular diastole, and all chambers of the heart relax. And then the cycle repeats itself at the start of the next heartbeat.